This episode is sponsored by Furniture Box. Check them out in the description below.
So you worked with Ninja from Fortnite.
Creating brands is one of the hardest things.
Mattu, co-founder and MD of Fashion UK. You run one of the biggest apparel manufacturers in the world.
Let's make life easy, quick and fashionable.
That's good stuff.
So I'm guessing then that you've got a team that are essentially almost seeing what trends are coming up.
Netflix come to you and go, right, Stranger Things is going to be hot. And he's like, oh no, just came in and offered me a load of cash, so not interested. Out of the blue, High School Musical hits off. People like Netflix, Warner Brothers, Disney, Alice in Wonderland movies come out. It's done really, really well.
It was just a punt, basically, on your side.
We signed this license called Angry Birds really early.
How much does Angry Birds charge you?
The thing with Angry Birds was...
What do you say to people who say, oh, you're contributing to fast fashion and all of the clothes that end up in landfill?
The old sort of Walmart mentality of like, stack it high, sell it cheap is just less and less right now. You can't just say, all right, we're going to make X amount of product.
Where do you see it going?
I want to be eco-friendly. I don't want to pay 4 times the amount.
Does it end up just becoming a race to the bottom?
We can make it a little bit cheaper and it's the same quality, so why wouldn't the people come to us?
Guys, welcome to the Ground Floor Podcast, the podcast where we ask successful people exactly how they did it. And our guest today is Mattu, who is the co-founder and MD of Fashion UK, who, along with his brother Gurdev, founded Europe's largest licensed apparel and accessory supplier to high street and online fashion retailers. Mickey, thanks for being here, man.
Thank you.
No, thanks for coming on. It's good to finally meet you.
Just to correct you, my brother is 11 years older than me, so he started the business a few years before me. Been doing it for 20 years, so it feels like a while.
Yeah,
wow,
bad.
Big journey.
Yeah,
so for anyone that doesn't know you or doesn't know Fashion UK, can you give a little bit of a summary and a background as to who you are and what it is?
Yeah, so me and my brother, born in Leicester. It used to be a historical sort of textiles business area, so loads of old mills and stuff like that. And my granddad was first generation, like late 60s, kind of worked in the foundries. My dad and my uncle worked a little bit in foundries, but basically decided, we can start making clothes and selling them, and they did really well out of that. So when I was young, we just had factories. I remember running around with rolls of fabric and ladies sewing clothes. My brother kind of finished university and dabbled in like law and stuff, but actually decided I'm going to kind of focus in on this business. And so we kind of, as a family, we'd set up our own business, and my brother kind of developed it, and he kind of found a niche in licensing. So it's
Can I ask, by the way, in terms of licensing, are you involved in the manufacturing process as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we were always making clothes, and he was like, actually, we could do some prints on there and, make it more fashionable. And back in those days, it was kind of very much set up with large, very, very large companies who had really long established contracts with like M&S and people like that. So my brother kind of worked to get sort of, our first license was Betty Boop, and he was like,
right, yeah, I saw that.
And he was like, we can make this fashionable. It's not got a lot of retail demand at the moment. It isn't anywhere, but actually it's well known.
Just quickly on that, for anyone that doesn't understand, and I don't either, with licensing, what exactly does that mean and how does that work? So I'm guessing it means you have the license to make products with that likeness on it. Yeah. But is it exclusive? How does that work?
Yeah, so generally they're non-exclusive.
Okay.
Generally, you kind of have a contract that lets you do specific product, and with those products you can kind of say, okay, we're gonna do X amount of t-shirts or cups or whatever it is you want to make. Okay. So some lovely examples
lovely
here.
Branded mugs,
t-shirt merchandise there.
Yeah, it's an excuse everyone take a sip simultaneously. Great.
So
that's good stuff.
Yeah. So basically, you get these contracts, and they're normally for a period of time. You normally have to give money up front, and then you have to kind of really maximize that and sell as much of it as you can. And the contract is drawn up in a way where you have to pay them a percentage revenue, a bit like a franchise model, like a certain percentage will go to them, and then underneath that, you'll have a little bit of your own profit and then the cost of goods. So that's kind of the way the contracts are set up, and you have a certain amount of time to do well out of it. And then, they can either not renew you, or they can kind of say, yeah, you're doing great, let's add some more product and some more distribution.
Okay.
So really you have to have that kind of setup really kind of pre-existing, unless you're going into something completely novel, like, I don't know, Bitcoin, branded Mickey Mouse Bitcoin or whatever.
Fine, I'm with you. Okay.
Where there's no market and you're essentially creating one.
So how established was the manufacturing business then before you moved into licensing?
So the manufacturing business is something that's been in our family. So like my dad and my uncle were doing it, and like I said, I remember like running around as a kid with fabric rolls and ladies sewing in the UK. So when my brother kind of decided to kind of get into it, we were doing a little bit of manufacturing in the UK, and then kind of as things developed, we kind of moved a little bit further out into Dubai. But really the focus was always like, let's make life easy, quick and fashionable and be competitive, because we're from the sort of that mentality of, if you've got to work hard, you've got to deliver quickly, you've got to be cheaper, better than everybody else. So we were kind of plugging away at it, and eventually we moved to Dubai, and the contracts kind of grew naturally, and retail relationships kind of grew naturally. We were always strong with New Look, and we were like, oh great, this is an opportunity. And then we decided, well, actually now we're in licensing, printing is really like key part of it. The image likeness and the brand is it's all important. So we bought our own sort of like one machine, and we were just doing a little bit of printing and growing, and that kind of grew. The licenses grew. So then there was Little Miss, and then there was more and more sort of licenses, and we grew from like ladies wear down to sort of children's wear. And there was like loads of different opportunities coming up all the time. So there was Snoopy came, then one day we were having licenses conversations with like, can we get into Disney? It'll be so great to get Disney. One day you manage to get into Disney, you get a contract going with Disney, and we secured Disney. And then
that's the right sorry to interrupt, that's the right to print Disney logos on t-shirts and clothing Disney to essentially distribute.
So we were doing that for people like New Look and M&Co and all these sort of small stores, and these chains, well, they're not small, they're 100 stores, 300 stores. And then we're growing our distribution step by step. So it's really been organic sort of growth. But then one of these licenses are hit off like out of the blue. High School Musical hit off.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And then suddenly it's like a straight line trajectory upwards, and you're like, we cannot make enough of this stuff. We've got to continue. So we had that. I remember being really young and just going, wow, we're so busy right now. As we grew, the size of the business grew. The sourcing, we went out to India, and then something really interesting happened. We were like looking around for licenses, and we signed this license called Angry Birds really early. No one knew what it was. Wow. And we were like,
how did you manage to secure that?
Yeah,
how did that come about? Because obviously that was a huge game, a mobile phone app game. So I mean, how did that come about?
So the I suppose the thing with Angry Birds was we were building on network around the licensors, and you got to know various people, and people were moving from Warner Brothers to Disney to whoever, and independent agents. And we knew at one point a guy who came to us and who worked with us previously, and he was like, got this, it's just starting, what do you think? And we're like, yeah, actually this might be something. And nobody had heard of it. And we're like, look, it's on your phone, you flick this bird, and it's going to be worth a shot.
So it was just a punt, basically, on your side.
Well, that's what we do generally. So that's what we were doing a lot more of, actually, back in those days. It was kind of like, we'd like to try and grow into strategic relationships. But at that period, we're kind of like, we'd really love to be, the main guys having the biggest contracts with all the suppliers. But when you're a small fish, it was really hard to kind of be like the main sort of revenue earners. So we were a lot more aggressive in taking opportunities, and that came back, and suddenly everybody was like, we need this and we need it now. So that really opened the doors. I mean, we were always like a small supplier to Next at that point, and that suddenly was like, okay, we need you to work like this. We need you to link in with our core buyers. We need you to be working to really deliver this product out quickly. And it was a whole sort of step change. So that was like a big growth opportunity. And we took on some European sort of distribution, and we're like, who does this in Germany? It's a massive market. Who does this in Nordics? Who does this in Spain? And so we tried to just grow from there, and we've just grown and grown. And then we've used a strategic relationship. So people like Netflix, Warner Brothers, Disney, to go, actually, you know what, we're really strong in Nordics now. We're dealing with everybody in the Nordics. Can we get more distribution out there? Can we get some distribution in Turkey, in the Middle East? And it's just kind of grown.
Just growing.
In terms of with the licensing structure, is it a case where with something like Angry Birds, is it an upfront fee or is it just a percentage over time? I mean, how much of a punt is it? Is it,
Oh, it's not sort of like, if it works, good luck. If it doesn't, generally it's like a substantial upfront fee,
right?
A percentage of your revenue, which is worked on a recoup basis, and then when you hit that number, you've got to pay the difference, and then after that, there's like differences in like, actually, if you're selling it in China, we want more royalty, so they'll charge you more. And then there's auditing rights, so they'll come in afterwards and audit and make sure that you're declaring everything and you're paying the right amount. So there is a lot that goes into it.
How much did Angry Birds charge you? Can you say?
You know what? All the contracts have these confidentiality
clauses. Okay.
But generally speaking,
it's worth asking.
Yeah.
Just see, like, why not?
But generally speaking, like, we've done deals where, we've worked with brand owners and we're like, look, there's not really a lot in it, but this retailer wants, these, I can't remember. I think we did some like jumpers for Marmite for Tesco, like a one-off deal. And then, it's, relative to that deal, isn't it? Tesco want 10,000 Marmite jumpers for Christmas. Love it or hate it, you go viral and that's it. Or sometimes it's like, okay, Netflix come to you and go, right, Stranger Things is going to be hot. Let's talk strategy and how we're going to make sure you cover all the distribution and you do a really good job of it. And then you're like, okay, this is big money. There's a certain amount up front that's expected. And then people have their expenses, like Universal release a Jurassic Park. Hasbro are going to release Transformers. That they have a lot of money tied up in that, and they're expecting a certain amount of revenue to come out of the apparel, the accessories. I mean, they license everything. You can buy a Transformers cake. Somebody's making that cake. A cake company's making it.
So I'm guessing then that you've got a team that essentially almost seeing what trends are coming up, or almost trying to predict what's going to happen further down the line and what you should be producing as a result of that. Is that the case, or is it more to do with the relationships that you've got with these existing businesses that are then coming to you to say, okay, we're releasing this product, or whatever it might be, we're looking at doing.
It's a bit of both. I mean, like, okay, you get the opportunities coming in, like actually manga's on trend, and this is the latest manga sort of opportunity, and we're not sure how long this is going to last, or we're doing this for a season and that's going to be it. So how many products can you range? We want to be in this retailer only. We don't want to go down too low. Or what we really strive for now is like strategic, long-term sort of people that are going to be like not going up and down the sort of roller coaster of sort of like, it's massive, because as we've grown, our staff's grown, and as our staff's grown, it's actually like, this is a lot of people, and we can't just like say, oh well, Angry Birds is finished, business is halved. Yeah. Sorry guys, you got to kind of like maintain that.
There's an element of responsibility, isn't there?
Definitely, yeah.
So how big are you now, headcount wise?
400.
Wow.
Yeah.
You run one of the biggest apparel manufacturers in the world, right? What do you say to people who say, things like, you know, oh, you're contributing to fast fashion and all of the, you know, clothes that end up in landfill and stuff?
We work in loads of different ways. And essentially, yeah, you're right. You know, like if you're working for mass market fast fashion accounts, the likes of, you know, the grocers or the fast fashions, the Primarks, the sort of New Looks and whatever, there is a certain amount of that. We work with Zara, we work with Primark, and we've done campaigns with them where it's like, actually, we're going to make this in, you know, Ecotex fabric, or it's going to be organic, or it's going to be part of the Mickey Ketters range, or Zara has this thing called Join Life. So when you go through Join Life and what it entails, there's actually a lot that goes into it. You can't just say, all right, we're going to make X amount of product. Each of the retailers has their own sort of agenda on making some product, you know, and they're all kind of going in the right direction, but every retailer has got its own track. So, you know, we're trying to work hard with the retailers and say, look, we're going to like follow this, and we're going to like work with you to get to these standards. And then above and beyond that, we're like, actually, you know what, we could probably help and do more. So we set up our own recycling plant in Egypt, where we're like, you know what, we can make things better than what we believe currently is in the market. And actually our aim is to make it where it's no more expensive, because I think that's the real problem right now, where you've got people saying, you know, yeah, I want to be eco-friendly, but I don't want to pay 4 times the amount for the shirt that I've just bought for like 20 quid. I can't afford an 80 quid shirt to go to work in every day, you know. So there's a real balancing act at the moment, and especially with general price rises, you know, like there's a real sort of awareness in the consumer market right now that they want to do it, but they can't really impact the bottom line. So it's up to us to kind of find those solutions.
What's your personal opinion on fast fashion?
My personal opinion on fast fashion is it's something that's grown, but to an extent it's almost like a misnomer, in the sense that if you could say who's the ultimate fast fashion, you'd say maybe like a Boohoo, right? But even Boohoo aren't saying we need 50,000 of this one thing. They take 300 and they'll trial it, and they'll, if it works, all right, we'll book another 300. And that's true fast fashion, because it's selling out as they're buying it. Nobody's sitting, the you know, the old sort of Walmart mentality of like, you know, stack it high, sell it cheap, is just less and less right now. So I think it's naturally people are trying to find the right sort of balance.
And where do you see it going, just from a sort of consumer perspective? Because as you say, they're becoming far more aware of what they're purchasing.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to know from someone obviously in your position as to where you think it's going to end up.
So I think more and more there's going to be a focus on, from the retailers, let's hold less stock and be more reactive, and let's get the supply chain to be more reactive, as opposed to, like, you know, buying huge quantities of stuff and delivering it. Yeah, we want that capability in the background when something works, but we don't want to be buying it day in, day out. And I think people will be looking at that and going, yeah, if you can develop that, there's no reason why you can't have the that mentality around whether it's going to be organic, whether it's going to be completely recycled, or whether we're going to use water-based inks or whatever. And the same will come across in like accessories and stuff as well. Backpacks will have the same conversation. Shoes, you know, can we use recycled materials? Can we reuse the rubber? Can we do this? Can we do that? So there's a lot of things happening, and you're always stuck in between. What does the retailer want to do? What's the best that we can do? What's their corporate goals versus what's our licensor's corporate goals as well? Because like we work with Coca-Cola and they have some of their own goals. Doesn't necessarily link in with every retailer's goals, but you know, they've made a commitment that they're not going to you know, that all plastic recycled is going to be turned into a Coca-Cola bottle. So that's great, but then, you know, sometimes a retailer will say, actually I want recycled plastic to go into the polyester jumpers. So sometimes they don't match. So you have to really navigate the best solution for everybody, and we're kind of working out how does it work with the retailers, the brand owners, and what can we physically do to make both of them fit?
So in terms of the industry that you're in, what's the barrier to entry like?
Barrier to entry is kind of high in like the apparel and the accessories and the sort of toys. There's well established sort of people doing that. But licensing is more flexible, I'd say. So if you have like a novel concept, say you guys are going to go, let's license, the podcast. Let's do something innovative around that. Yeah, that suddenly becomes a lot more flexible. If you start to say, okay, I want to start making toys and create a licensed brand and put that on, you're competing against Hasbro, Mattel, and people like, multi-billion-dollar companies.
Does it end up just becoming a race to the bottom in the manufacturing industry from a price perspective? Because I'm curious to know how do you set yourself apart in an industry where it's so solely focused on price per unit?
It's not necessarily a race to the bottom because we're in the niche of the brands. So we're like working with, say, PlayStation when they launched the PS5, and we're like, okay, how are we going to do PS5 and how are we going to do PlayStation? So we're really trying to step away from that within the brands. Generic, white T-shirts, yes, you could argue that ultimately it's a race to the bottom, and then you'd have retailers like Asda would have their own quality standards and say, this is what we want. You go to B&M stores, their T-shirt will have a different quality standard and so on and so forth. You go to Next, there's going to be better, and they're going to charge more for it because they want to do, I don't know, organic or, an enzyme wash to make it look like a rock T-shirt. So everybody has different sort of standards, but when it comes to the mass side, yeah, there is always going to be that sort of balance when somebody's like, at the end of the day, we can make it a little bit cheaper and it's the same quality, so why wouldn't the people come to us?
What's your advice to someone who wants to start a clothing brand in terms of both searching for a manufacturer but also trying to establish what they need to actually create a successful clothing brand?
Creating brands is one of the hardest things. We know and we see people coming to us saying, oh, I've got this brand, do you want to license it? A lot of the time the answer is kind of like, no. It takes a lot of hard work to build the brand up, to get the right distribution, to get the marketing right, to get the advertising right, to get the locations right. So we work with some of our brand owners and they want to do a special launch in Selfridges. That's a lot of hard work to lift the brand to that halo for a very small quantity, and we don't generally make any money on it, but it's really useful for us to say, hey, look at the anniversary of Mr. Men's 80th anniversary, and we've done the Selfridges shop in shop, and they've got the books there, they've got our apparel there, and they've got the back to school stuff there. Or similar sort of thing on like Batman turns 80. How are we going to make the most of that? Are we going to go to the vintage sort of reels and get some bespoke imagery? So yeah, kind of is very, very difficult. So you've got to really be able to bring something special and get the customers aware of it. I mean, like any brand is really hard to kind of break through.
When you mentioned relationships with high street retailers like New Look and Next and things like that, someone like New Look, for example, how do you go about getting that relationship?
New Look's been one of our oldest customers. I mean, literally, it was one of the first customers that I remember after I joined the university. We had the New Look account open. They always used to just buy from Leicester, historically, and I believe like it was then known between the old sort of what we call the rag trade, and like that was a historical relationship. But like if you look at say Next and Tesco, it's just literally reaching out to the buyers saying, hey, you know what, we supply Asda, we're supplying River Island or somebody else, here's our product, can we come and talk to you? You just got to do the graft. There's no quick wins in that.
How do you get that first client and the first customer on board? Obviously you've got the kudos of having those big brands behind you, so it's much easier to get your foot in the door. But let's say if somebody doesn't have access or to that sort of roster, how do they get in front of those big businesses?
What do you mean in terms of getting the brands like the licenses? Yeah. So, everybody is kind of open to do business. So if you think like, actually I have my own brand and I want to do a co-brand with Hello Kitty, for example, or something like that, and you think,
Hello Kitty's such an old brand. Honestly, that's been going around for so long.
I know,
and it's just never got old. I find
it.
it so strange.
It's still huge.
It is, isn't it? I know.
but it's crazy. I mean, it's gone up, down,
Yeah.
up, down, and it continues. And some of these things are evergreen. Like we've been selling Snoopy for as long as I can remember,
Yeah.
but it remains like popular and part of the sort of society, especially in different territories. I didn't realize how big some things are in different areas. Snoopy's really strong in Germany. And I'm like, wow.
I wouldn't have guessed that either.
But these sort of brand owners, they're around. You can just literally Google them and say, who owns the estate of, I don't know, Elvis Presley, if you wanted to do something retro, or you can reach out to them, and they have contact us for licensing inquiries, and they have email addresses. There's sort of trade shows you can go to, Europe, like London, Germany, America. You can kind of go to these these and you can give your card and say, can I have 2 minutes because I want to do co-brand. I mean, some of these ideas are amazing. I was talking to some of our friends in London. They've done I think Motley Crue whiskey and stuff like that.
Okay.
Genius.
Yeah.
And all of these sort of opportunities exist everywhere, so they're all open.
So how much creativity do you have? Is it for you to come up with the idea? Like that Motley Crue whiskey thing, for example, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Tying it to one of the most legendary kind of bands of all time in terms of their touring stuff. How much control do you have over that? Can you be creative with it? When you mentioned the Batman 80-year thing, going back to old reels and deciding on the style, do you get to say, because it's Batman's 80th year, it would be great to pitch DC on a Batman hoodie that has this particular style of Batman from this year on it? Or is it more they say, hey, we're doing this for this year, we need 40,000 of them?
Right. So generally speaking, it's very heavily dependent on us to come up with the creative ideas and show the retailers how it could look like so they want to buy it. When it comes to sort of the licensors, they'll give you style guides, they'll develop the whole sort of brand look and aesthetic, and they'll go, this is what we're thinking. But as you grow and you do it, and the more you do it, you get to a stage where you can go to the key people, our key contacts in somewhere like Disney, and go, Alice in Wonderland movies come out, it's done really, really well. We want to do something a bit inspired off the back of that. Can we have a look around and root around some ideas and we just present our sort of thoughts sometimes. We go, hey, you know what, we're going to do this, or we're going to do some smiley Converse-esque footwear, and we're going to try and do this different look. They either love it or they say this is not right because we've already got a co-brand going on with, I don't know, somebody high-end like, a Paul Smith or a Gucci or something, and they're like, you can't touch that for 6 months or a year. Let's rediscuss it then. So it kind of depends on, the opportunities, but generally creative is very much down to us to kind of come up with the ideas and kind of knock them back. You don't necessarily get everything because it all depends on what you've agreed contractually. So you can't just say, I'm going to do Motorhead ale, a real ale, because I think all the Motorhead fans are that age now. So, they're going to be like, but you've only got t-shirt rights. So.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a second to talk about our sponsor for this episode, Furniture Box. Furniture Box is an online furniture retailer that makes awesome products for everywhere from your bedroom to your office. Now, we actually had Monty and Dan, the co-founders, on our show. That's how we met. We loved their story and we hung out with them afterwards, and we knew that we wanted to work with them. And here's the thing. One of the biggest issues I have whenever I've ordered furniture in the past is that certain big name furniture companies, not naming any names, will charge you a fairly large fee for delivery, and even then that delivery usually takes a few days, if not longer. With Furniture Box, not only do they offer free next day delivery, but they're now planning on extending their delivery cutoff even more so that you can literally order a dining set as late as 8 p.m. and be eating dinner on it the next day. So to put it simply, there's no one in the UK furniture scene that's doing anything like what they're doing, and we're thrilled to have them as our sponsor. So click the link in the description and check them out. Now back to the episode.
So what's it like being in business with your brother?
It's always challenging, because we have different views on a lot of things. So it's really, really hard to kind of go, okay, this is what we're doing. So generally speaking, I say, look, this is what I think is right. what do you think is right? And then we kind of come to an agreement. 90% of the time is like, no, we're definitely going to do it this way. And then at the end, I'm like, I told you so.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
What? How do you sort of divide the tasks or decide who looks after who between the two of you? How do you decide the responsibilities?
So as things have grown, we've always kind of taken different roles. He was heavily involved in production at one point. So I was like, okay, you're handling all of the production. I'll handle the sales side. When we grew into Europe, I was like, right, UK sales side, I'm already kind of doing. I can do the Europeans. We're going to get some country heads in. We're going to start doing some strategizing about how we're going to be like the best in France, the best in Germany, and so on. So we've always kind of had plans like, okay, if I'm doing this, I'll take over this little area and I'll do it. And he's like, okay, I'm going to focus on the recycling plant, or I want to focus on finances. So it's always just a conversation.
What would be your advice to someone who's looking to go into business either with a family member or one of their best friends? What do you think are some of the things they should be aware of?
Some of the things you've got to watch out for is just clarity, like what's in your head versus what's in the other person's head, your brothers, your dads, your sisters. And I think communication would like be the issue in 90% of things anyway. So I think friends and family is the same thing. You just start off with a real clean, sort of simple, right, this is what we're doing, this is where we want to get to. And then actually this opportunity's come along, do we want to do it? Yeah, let's try it. Should we try selling caps? Yeah, somebody else is doing it, they're doing really well, look at them. Oh, actually, you know what, there's an opportunity here, should we do it? No, we're already maxed out, we don't have that sort of cash available right now, unless we do X, Y and Z. So it's just communicating.
Have you had a made it moment?
Have you had a made it moment?
Yeah. Have you had a moment where you've realised like, wow, I've built something really, really big?
I don't think so, no, because there's always so much more to do. I'm always like, okay, well, yeah, that's going well, but I can see 3 things here that I need to get on top of, and I can do better here, and this could be here. Our competitors stronger there. Why aren't we taking this? Been working years to open certain retail accounts, and you're like almost there. So opportunities come, like we opened a retail account in Dubai, and I was like, this is amazing. Who's the leader here? Oh, these guys are. How many people do they have? Who do they supply? They're everywhere. Like, wow, this is amazing. We should be here. Who handles the Middle East region? No, oh, there's like 2 or 3 big guys. So to me, there's always, well, we can be doing that, we can be doing that. And then it's a real a question of growth versus consolidation. And, we have to kind of balance that out.
Leading on from that, what's your view on money? Now that you're at this point, obviously you've got an incredibly successful business that you're running. I'm curious to know what your stance is on the money that you're making and how it's affected your lifestyle, if at all.
I don't really think it's like a huge effect on the lifestyle. We've always been kind of like, just work hard, build up the business, and we're not. I mean, there is expenses. Don't get me wrong, and I do buy nice things every now and again, but it's not been like, wow, right now I've spent a load of money here or a load of money there. I think what's more important to me is kind of like, okay, develop security, build the next asset. What else are you going to do? How else are you going to grow this business? Is there an opportunity somewhere else? But not really like, suddenly gone, wow, okay, time to buy like, I don't know, an Aventador or something.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's almost a satisfaction of building the business.
Yeah.
It gives you all you need as opposed to the money that comes from it.
You know what the thing is? Like, I found like, actually what's more important to me now is like actually learning to take time out. Because like when I was growing up, working Saturday was like a normal thing. Like you'd get up, you'd go to work Saturday half a day, and that was just a normal thing. Everybody I knew did it. So, and then like the guys used to be my dad and everybody used to be in the pub afterwards and then have 2 pints and go home, and that was just part of life. So now I used to find it really weird not working on a Saturday. And I work. You work continue. Even now, I like work till 7-8 o'clock normally, and then catch up and stuff. But now, what's more important to me is like, can you take time out actually and just watch the kids because they're growing up, and try and take your son to a football match and things like that. So it's really more important to me as like a balance. I'm working hard together.
Yeah. Well, on that note, what are your thoughts on hustle culture and that kind of thing, and like grinding and doing all this kind of stuff?
I think I don't really believe in it. You're either if you want to work, you're going to work. There's no sort of culture around it. It's just the way you kind of are. You're either brought up and you work hard because that's what you do, or you don't. I don't believe in like working 20 hours a day or some ridiculous. And you know what? Taking time out and going on holiday with your family for a week is a really great thing. It doesn't mean that I don't get up like 2 hours early and check all my emails, because then I know that nothing's like, the building's not burned down. But once I've done that, if I can spend half a day and, really like chill out on a beach with the kids and play football and go for a swim and all that sort of stuff, that's really important. The hustle culture thing, I think there's a lot of sort of TikToks and all this sort of stuff, which is disingenuous, I think.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned your wife and your kids, obviously, and you've had, as Ski said, a very successful business. What has the impact been in terms of like managing a personal relationship with a business? I think a lot of people have different views on that. Some people think when they're coming up and building something, they need to be kind of all focused, and some people think they couldn't have done it without their partner. And what are your thoughts on that? Yeah,
so I think getting married and settling down really kind of brings a bit of perspective, because you've got a partner, then you've got children, and time becomes a lot more precious. And then you're like, okay, now we need to kind of book this in, and it's not movable. Before, things were movable for work. Everything's kind of work around work. Even if you're going on holiday, you're going for, because there's something you can do there. There's potentially I don't know, a supply source or an embellishment or something. Everything was work related. Now with that, it definitely helps you see the other side.
Would you like your kids to take over from you?
I'm really open about what the future holds. I think it will be one of those things. My son said to me, like, I can't remember, he was like, oh yeah, when I grow up, I'm going to work in the factory with you. I'm going to work in the business with you. And I was like, are you? Really? Why? Just I want to. And I was like, okay, it's really interesting. But I think back then, like, we just signed like Fortnite, and like it was one of his games. Oh yeah. He was like, wow, this is amazing. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
Was it like signing someone like Fortnite? Like you get to work with Fortnite?
Yeah. It's very interesting. Like a lot of these sort of brands will come up, and they literally are like new to the whole merchandise angle. So we did this thing with Ninja. He used to be a famous YouTuber. He did this thing with Drake, and suddenly he was the hottest thing ever. Yeah. And we're like, do you want to do a range? We'll do like a range. He's like, yeah, cool, let's do it. So we did ranges, and we do these sort of things with these, up and coming guys.
So you worked with Ninja from Fortnite?
Yeah.
That's so dope.
That's quite a cool accolade.
That's a great, yeah.
That's quite cool.
What's Ninja like?
He was, we didn't really, like, the way it's all set up, you don't really work with them. You, like, kind of have, like, one meeting where they, like, kind of might be involved agreeing the terms of the contract. And then they're like, right, just do all the design, send us everything, and we'll sign it off, and then, we'll leave it. But basically, they'll sign off, like, we're going to launch it in store, and there's going to be some, like, the logos on the floor, and the range is going to be like this. So generally, you get to kind of create that look for them, and they'll sign it off. And we did like a great deal, and we made loads of sales. But then actually, like, the next like renewal, we were like, oh, we're doing really well, we're going to pay you loads more money now, we're growing. And he's like, oh no, Adidas just came in and offered me a load of cash, so not interested. And you're like, what? Yeah. How's it all this time building this?
Yeah. Really? And like, is that common? You get to the end of a project, and
I can't believe that.
All of a sudden, like, things just
swept up.
Literally, like, all that work and everything goes into that, and then they just turn around and say,
yeah. I mean, it happens. And the other thing happens as well, where people start off and they're like, oh no, don't want to be merchandising my stuff. Well, we're better than this. And then like next year, like, so you're going to pay me, right?
Yeah. So as soon as they see the pound signs, they're like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense. Why wouldn't I do that?
Just before we wrap up, I really want to know: is there anyone that you would love if you could, work with anyone, license anyone, any brand, any figure, anything? Who would it be?
I've never really thought about it. I kind of just look at the opportunity and go, this makes sense. Would you like to do it? I mean, we've approached people, and we've approached, you know what? You've worked
with a lot of big names.
Yeah, you got me a complete blank. I can't think of any. And now's the time, right? I should be like, yes.
We're on camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Versace, Armani, all the everyone call me. No, you know what? I'm sure there's millions, but none that I can remember right now.
All good, Mickey. It's been a hell of a conversation. I mean, Ninja. That's the standout for me. We like to ask the same question to every guest that we get at the end of every episode. If you could give one piece of advice, but focused on the practical, what would it be?
I think the first thing would be like, just be super clear. Like, I want to do this. This is what I think is going to work, and I'm going to do it. And then if it works, then really go after it in a big way. And if it doesn't work, just stop.
I love that. That's so simple. I think so many people overcomplicate things.
They do overcomplicate it.
Because we've made mistakes, and you know what? You can see.
But you learn from it as you go. That's
you've got to. But you've got to have the guts to say, okay, this has cost us X, and we need to stop now because it's just not working.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can get, you're like, yeah, but we spent it, and if we just put a bit more in, it's going to magically happen. But
there's a word for that. It's the gambler's sunk cost fallacy.
Is it? Okay. But you just keep putting money in until it eventually.
Good money. You throw good money after bad. Yeah.
Don't do it.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's a valuable lesson. Yeah. Thank you.
Don't throw money up. Good money after bad. That's a good way to end on. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you liked it, please be sure to subscribe. And turn on post notifications and rate us 5 stars on audio platforms. But Mickey, thank you so much for being here, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.